The creator of one of my favorite Webtoon series, Omniscient Reader, is back with an entirely new series, The World After the Fall. After a tower emerges from the ground, humanity is called to climb the tower and save the world, to become Tower Walkers. Climbing each floor, battling wave after wave of enemies and monsters to gain skills and stats to become the savior of humanity. But what's really interesting is how our main character, Tower Walker Jaehwan's story starts, but technically ends. The reverse isekai is a term I've definitely mentioned before. If you're in the anime community, you've probably heard the term isekai before, when a normal human gets magically whisked away into a fantasy world. However, the reverse isekai instead brings the fantasy world to a normal, average, everyday one. There are a bunch of different Webtoon series that follow the reverse isekai genre, and weirdly follow people climbing towers. So with so many series out there, some like mTheMaxLeveNewbie coming from the same minds as Solo Leveling, and the advanced player of the tutorial tower has tower in the name, and is also on like episode 72, while this one is only on episode 8. So what in just 8 episodes makes this series so interesting? Well, to me, it's how they start the series starting on floor 99, basically the end of the tower. While this series is by the same creator as Webtoon's Omniscient Reader, a lot of what this series has going for it falls more in line with the Webtoon series mTheMaxLeveNewbie. That being climbing a tower, getting stronger, having video game-like mechanics like skills, stats, mana, items, and a somewhat overpowered protagonist. However, with every other series like this, we start at the bottom of the tower and climb our way to the top. Meanwhile, The World After the Fall ends episode 0, entering the 99th floor. Why does this matter though? Well, mainly because this series uses another element that a lot of other series use, and turns that on its head, that being time travel. The World After the Fall has the Regression Stone, with the ability to send the user back in time with their present memories intact. This kind of time travel is used a lot in fantasy worlds and fantasy stories, but this series poses an interesting question. As Tower Walkers use these stones, what happens to the world they leave behind? It doesn't change when they go back, they just abandon the world they once tried to protect. Our main character, Jaehwan, stands in stark opposition of the regression stones and of running away. Even in the face of great death, even in the face of a massive ice dragon that he has to fight by himself, even when he's all alone. Which is why starting at the very end is really important. Where the story starts is probably one of the most important things to a story, because it sets the standard. It sets the tone. First impressions matter, not just because we see the characters and the world and a brief summary of the story, at least if there's an episode 0, but the tone is equally as important. Lore Olympus's opening is melancholy, but with tones of optimism at the end. Hardcore Leveling Warrior is loud, fun, but surprisingly serious at times. Unordinary is all about breaking down stereotypes and expectations. So what does The World After the Fall give us? To me, it gives loneliness and despair. By starting at the end, we, rather obviously, see the adventure's end, and what it means to our main character. But unlike seeing the end of our favorite Webtoon series, I'll always love you, Hardcore Leveling Warrior! We don't have that journey, that connection. So what we see is a lonely and sad ending. All alone. And that's important. By having our main character face the final challenge by himself, we see him reminisce about the adventure, about what it meant to him, about all the sacrifices he's taken. But instead of connecting with him, instead of relating to that, instead of being like, yeah, I was there when that happens, we just feel bad for him. That he's had this entire adventure, that he's lost the people he was closest with, and we've only seen the end of that. We've only seen the death. We've only seen the loneliness. And to me, that's what makes this so interesting, because that's really what despair means. We don't see anything else with this character. Just loneliness, just sadness, just death and destruction that we've seen him endure. We've seen him spend years fighting by himself, watching his friends either die right in front of him or try to use stones to go back in time and fix their mistakes. But that's what's so interesting about despair, especially when it's used on our main character, as despair is always used to push our characters onwards. We see that despair always serves as our character's motivation. Despair, the complete loss or absence of hope. How can that serve as motivation? Easy, because he keeps on going. He spends years, literally 10 years alone fighting an ice dragon, all by himself, trying more than 70 times to beat an unbeatable demon. We see him keep on going and going and going, just because his friends gave their lives to keep on fighting, just to protect the world. And isn't that the coolest? Make sure to check out The World After the Fall on Webtoon, updating once a week. And thank you for watching. Take care.